Hey everyone, before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you like my content, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and then join the Militiaman and Crew Patreon community by clicking the link in the caption. Hey, good afternoon everybody. It's Sunday afternoon, Militiaman and Crew here. We want to thank you all for being with us, and thank you all for joining in on patreon.com/MM and Crew. We all appreciate all your coming in, seeing, enjoying. One of the things I wanted to talk about and what I did with some of the crew members today was, it's like, look, there's a valuable tool that's inside Patreon, and what I use for that is to search for things. And sometimes when you go and search for the past, you can see how much progress Iraq has done. And you can see the things that have transpired. And you kind of forget some of that stuff that has been started. Al-Sudani's been in his situation, in his position as a leader for the country of Iraq, and he's been dominated, as far as I'm concerned, over the last 15 years, in my experience, that of any other prime minister. And in that year and a half, he has a vision to do the Development Road Project, and that has been just noticeable, and it's been noticeable globally. And with that said, Al-Sudani has, under his watch, in that year and a half, with a simple search, one word in Patreon, just type in the word accelerate. And if you're on a PC, you can do Control F key, Control F, and type in accelerate, and then let it search. And you'll be able to find many, many articles that talk about accelerate, acceleration, accelerating. Okay, and it's important because it gives you some time frames. So look at the dates. They're not necessarily in date chronological order, but a lot of times they are in sequence. But nonetheless, go through it. Then you're going to see some of the things that I'm going to go over tonight. Okay. And that's important because if you go back to the past, you can say, well, why is it taking so long? Well, they've been in an acceleration mode for quite some time, and that's they say it, and they give examples of what they say in that data set. So anyway, I picked out a few things that are relevant to it, and I'm going to go over some of that stuff. And here's one that's talking. Well, I'll just get started with this, and this might not be the only one at the beginning, but we'll get to it. Parliamentary intensity with this year's budget is the best since 2003. Well, isn't that interesting? So since 2003, this budget, the one that they're supposed to be voting on, and we'll get to some of that this evening as well, it says it's the best. Now that's a total change from the other day. They called it a storm. There's going to be a storm. Why? Because there was 211 trillion dinar involved in the budget, and a 64 or more trillion, 64 or much more, maybe twice, who knows, but they at least say 64 in a couple articles just recently, that it is in trillions of dinar that they're going to be in a deficit. Well, one of the things that, if you remember back in one of my videos, not too terribly long, and within the forum you can find that one of the things that Parliament will be able to do, because see, Iraq's government has the authority, since they passed the budget in 2023, June-ish, right, about a year ago, they had the ability to amend the budget. So the government has the ability to amend the budget. Well, if it comes down to the exchange rate aspect of it, it's not their job. That's Al-Awlaq's job. But they can do is they can adjust the budget based off the amendments. So if they vote on the amendments, and the amendments are allowing for an adjustment to line items in the budget, for instance, they have the ability to change that. And so that's what we're talking about, deficit. So if Al-Awlaq happened to show up today, for instance, let's say he did, maybe he didn't, but let's say he did. If he did, he could have had a conversation with the Parliament and have a little talk with them in respect to why the budget will work and how they can reduce that deficit. Because that's what they can do. They can, if in fact the government decides to have that adjustment, and Awlaq does it in his independent situation, they can use it and say, well, oh, wow, we can reduce the budget. And basically, the project to delete the zeros will be fit in that system. If you recall that they said that to delete the zeros brings value to the currency, and that's really important. So at that stage, maybe we're going to find out tonight, breaking news, I'll get to that probably prior to the end, but we're going to find out that there's some really interesting things going on. And I hope you guys stick around for it, because it is kind of an important tie-up, okay? This report says it's confirmed that the reports prepared by the Parliamentary Finance Committee after studying the schedules sent by the government confirm that the allocations of the provinces in 2024 are not reduced, but rather they're the best since 2003. It said the reports prepared by the Parliamentary Finance Committee after studying the schedules sent to the government confirm that the allocations of the provinces in 2024 budget have not been reduced, but are the best since 2023. So in my view, being the budget schedules are the best since 2003, and if they've confirmed that report and it holds true, I'm not sure how 600 or 64 trillion deficit is a good thing. My view is today, this morning, what are we missing? Well, my view this morning was, has Al-Alaq been in the meetings? Well, that's a possibility. We don't know. I don't have it in writing, but I would assume that's probably why you're going to see what happens at the end, okay? Let's go to the government advisor. The Sudanese developed roadmap for post-UNAMI. Yeah, so the advisor to the Prime Minister, Hussein Alawi, confirmed on Saturday the Prime Minister, Mohammed Shia al-Sudani, has developed a roadmap for the work of the government apparatus after the end of the mission of Iraq is in. So basically, the UNAMI is going to be going away. The Iraq state has regained capabilities and validity of government institutions and succeeded in managing the economy. And this is what Prime Minister Shia al-Sudani has worked for more than a year and a half, something I just mentioned, indicating that there is very, very large activity for the Iraqi government in supporting the strengthening of the state, its capabilities, as well as the regional and international relations. So al-Sudani has been doing a bang-up job. This made the countries of the world, the United Nations, alliances, and international institutions praise the Iraqi government and recognize its capabilities in managing national sovereignty and imposing the law and managing the economy and the political life normally. So they're coming back to normal. It goes on to say that the request of the United Nations to end the UNAMI mission, as well as return to exercising the natural role of Iraq, continuing their relationship, special institutions with special institutions and of the United Nations and its organizations. Iraq's national capabilities have been completed in managing its normal situation, and the ability of Iraq state to manage national solutions and develop solutions to the problems it has suffered for 20 years. This is why we have noticed the national renaissance since the government assumed responsibility in the fall of 2022 until this moment. So obviously, they're making notice of al-Sudani's remarkable achievements over the last year and a half. He basically has knocked it out of the park as far as I'm concerned. So it's pretty exciting, and we're going to see some really good things because Iraq is getting ready to open up to the world, the electronic systems. We're going to talk about a little bit that too tonight. So ICE cut is involved. We got, the electronic payments, those things that we've already talked about, but it's still rolling. And remember that Accelerate I talked about at the beginning. Really would be interesting for you to do your own research and follow up with what I have, because what I do with Patreon is I give you data that is in print as best as I can. Sometimes we have some stuff that's not, but most of it, I think, for the most part, is you can find it if you just do the research. Okay, before being put to a vote, final meeting of the 2024 budget in the corridors of the Parliament was today. Today's Sunday. Upcoming final meeting of the committee to resolve the 2024 budget schedules before presenting it to a vote within the council. So they were expecting to have that take place. And that's today. This meeting that was today was basically, this is key, keep in mind, the meeting will decide whether the schedules will pass by tomorrow's session or be deported, as they use, or deferred to after Eid al-Adha. That's about the middle of June. So it's not terribly long, but that's what they say. They suggest that that's a possibility. Okay, they go on to talk about the session for federal financial budget schedules, et cetera, et cetera. They basically are stating on Saturday, June 1st, the near of the end of the work on the federal financial budget schedules for 2024. So they've been working on it. The schedule seems to be on track, but tomorrow's vote, we're going to find out if that's the case or not. So we'll see. He goes ahead of tomorrow's session, the final meeting of the Parliamentary Finance on the budget. So they had a final meeting, supposedly, right? It says the final meeting to finalize its report on the general budget schedules. And guess what? Since last week, the committee has been continuing its periodic meetings in the buildings of the guest house of the Secretary General to discuss the schedules of the general budget until the preparation of the final report, which will be presented in session for tomorrow. That's what they're suggesting. Okay. The meeting touches on the decision of the Presidency of the House of Representatives to allocate a session on Monday to vote on the tables of the General Budget Law number 13 of 2024, amended in its annexes to be tables of A, B, C, D, E, and F. So they obviously had specific portions of the law that they wanted to have amended. And they didn't tell you what they are specifically. That's interesting. So we'll see what happens. 2024 budget schedules are 60% settled and the variables are present within 24 hours. And they say, oh, it's urgent. I go, okay. He says the committee will be open the schedules today and we'll discuss, so this is today, we'll discuss the possibility of making amendments to them or passing them according to the text that reached Parliament from the government, indicating that today's meetings will decide whether the schedules will be passed in tomorrow's session or moved until the Eid al-Adha. So this is the second time they mention it. All right. So they're leaving you on your back foot. That's pretty much the way they do things sometimes in this country, and not like any others. But this is a fascinating part right here. 1.6 trillion dinars, the volume of fuel sales via electronic payment. There was quite a few people that were sending me private messages and saying, well, we know firsthand that they're still using cash. They're still using cash. They're still using cash. And I said, well, okay, but they're still using cards. They're still using cards. They're still using cards. And so there's a mix and whatever, but there was. Okay, fair enough. So today, Sunday, crossed the barrier of 1.6 trillion dinars in sales of petroleum products via electronic payments. You got to let that sink in, you guys, because what does that do? It reduces the cash. Okay? It says they're not those transactions. 1.6 trillion dinars was not in cash. It was electronic. See what I'm saying? That's one of the ways they're reducing the note count, in my opinion. It says the electronic payment culture platform in Iraq stated a blog post on Facebook allowed for the news that the sales of the petroleum products distribution company through electronic payment exceeded the threshold of 550 billion Iraqi dinars during the month of May alone. This exceeding the barrier of 1.6 trillion Iraqi dinar 1 year and 1 month after the start of the project. So obviously it's working. And that means that their liquidity issues are happening. But remember, state institutions, electronic. Phones going electronic. Payments, RTGS, electronic. State institutions is big because there's a lot of revenue streams there. And, well, that would be also at IQD, the borders. That's going to happen as well. So things are going to come on board. But they obviously have sopped up a lot of currency, and so therefore we talked about the acceleration. They talked about acceleration of the cash money supply to remove it, okay, from the masses. They talk about that. We're going to talk about it tonight too. Okay, so the representative for the state forces, all salaries are guaranteed in the 2024 budget, and Monday's session is decisive. Well, we're going to see if that's the case. But if it is, so be it. But if it's not, we'll see what happens, right? Okay. We're only talking about what they tell us. We hope to do justice to the central and southern governance in 2024, announcing securing all salaries in the budget, as well as the projects that were established in 2023 to complete complete them and launch other new projects. So they're trying to establish what they did in 2023, complete it, and then launch new projects. Okay, so if they're going to be launching new projects, they're going to need new funding, and that's going to be something that we're going to try to figure out. What are you going to use as a mechanism? What's the exchange rate? There are sections in the budget that is very necessary for the representative to inform about, and they affect the service and health of aspects, infrastructure, and necessary projects, including sanitation. So that's all about the citizens, and that's what they've been all about. Okay, it says, Al-Bindawi concluded by saying, quote, "The world has an explosive budget that needs to be rationed and placed in the right place to benefit all citizens." They didn't just say the world, right? Yes, they did. So, interesting. Remember back when in 2023, September, UN Assembly, and then subsequently some meetings thereafter in Davos and then Munich? Confidence, right? What were they going to do? They were going to be effectively the savior of the global financial system. We've been over that numerous times. The world has an explosive budget that needs to be rationed and placed in the right place to benefit all citizens. So that's global. That's what it sounds like. They didn't say Iraq, they said world. All right. Let's see what they'd have to do, what comes with that, because I would be excited because I'm on this planet. and if it's going to benefit me, I think we all should be excited. The news is off the charts, you guys. I think it's fascinating. Distributing electronic copies of the budget schedules to the representatives in the finance to finalize them. Okay, so these guys got electronic digital copies of what they need for tomorrow, if that's what they do. Another one of the scheduled budgets for tomorrow, it's another article, it's just for the budget session is for tomorrow. They have distributed the schedules electronically today. A little more support for that. They may do it tomorrow, but we'll see. Okay. Al-Sudani follows up on the projects of the Ministry of Oil and the important activities of its companies. According to the statement by the media office, the Council of Ministers, a review of the progress of work in the projects under construction. Okay, we're talking about under construction projects. The extent of its conformity with the prepared timetables. Big deal, timetables, that's fascinating. As well as discussing financial allocations, financing and achievement rates, and comparing them with planned rates, in addition to following up on integrated energy projects and the most appropriate economic model for managing them. So what they're talking about here is that, hey, they have in progress, they have timetables, they have ideas for construction and reconstruction, financial allocations, financing, achievement rates, and so they're paying a big attention to what they've done and where they're going with this. And again, financial allocations, let that sink in. Timetables for what? Financial allocations. In other words, they have a time frame. Remember what I told you? They're talking about accelerating things for what? Because they're going to be doing things within specified time frames. Another search you guys can do is type in time frames. You're going to find some really fascinating stuff, and you're going to go, wow. So militiamen and crew have been throwing out this study, and it's actually backed up. It's not conjecture per se, because it's in what they've told us. So what we do the best is analyzing to see how and where we fit into this scheme. And the scheme of it is, it looks really good. And the reason why this is fascinating is because they're talking about refineries, fuel generation, refining, all these different things. And what does that do? It brings forth the fact is that they're going public, they're going to go private, they're going to go to the private sector, and they're going to do all these things for what? They're going to need the energy, they're going to need to get that electricity, energy efficiency, energy independence, I should say, and energy efficiency, because they've been burning gas. So they've got projects, investment on what? Retaining the gas, stopping burning within 3 years totally, and maybe having full independence with their own electricity because of that gas within 5 years. So all of these things are a work in progress. It can't build a country overnight, but you can sure get started overnight. You can get that in a fraction of a second. But I got some ideas that I put together today, and I'll read it to you, okay? If one does a search in the Patreon by using the word accelerate, we'll clearly see that Iraq has been in acceleration mode, and now in this article, Al-Sudani has again reiterated timeframes. In the reference to the budget allocations and finance has me believing at this time they met and believe that it's coming to funding projects. They're at that time frame where they're coming to fund projects. So the accelerating mode that they are in shows even today they've been in a move to digitize their payments. And what they represent today, I told you about the 1.6. They show that for fuel, they did 1.6 trillion dinar transactions electronically. Excuse me. That means they did that much volume on electronic cards with no cash, which also means they've reduced the need for physical currency, and which would be, just as they said, it would be effectively a reduction in currency needed on the street. It won't stop there. There are fully electronic for state institutions. Then there's the pharmacies, of course. Hey, pharmaceuticals cost money. People need medications every single day. All of this is a part of the plan, and there were back then and now time frames. That is why when they told us over and over, they were accelerating banking reforms, digital transformation, electronic real-time gross settlements, national cards, 39 million, by the way, etc., since early 2023 to present. They meant it. So they, to the present, they mean it, right? So one way for the parliament to reduce the deficit would be to have voted for the budget that allows the government to amend the budget schedules, and once done with a new real effective exchange rate, they can reduce the deficit. When Al-Awlaq implements the Delete the Zeros project, the trillions in the budget becomes billions, in my opinion. I would not be surprised if Al-Awlaq was in today's parliament on the budget schedule, talking possibly. All right. Hence, there's a 180-degree attitude towards the budget being positive, the best since 2003. Really, out of the blue. What happened to the storm? Huh. We'll see if my theory holds true. Okay, so let's just basically see if that theory does hold true. So anyway, interestingly enough, if you go back, like I told you, I went back and looked and I found some snippets that I wanted to go over a little bit. One of them was the delete the Iraqi dinars, zeros, reoccurring invitations, and existing challenges. Okay, that was February 25th, 2024. So it's still in the news this year. Okay, we all know that they did it in July of 2020. July 26, 2023, Al-Awlaq said the project still existed, and here once again we've been over this before, but just to reiterate it, it says that when this is done correctly, we can expect Iraq to become a strong dinar that is considered a store of value, and perhaps even stronger than the dinar that was before 1980, and that was Al-Hashimi had said. Okay, so that's a pretty big deal, you guys. Because that's in the search when they're talking about acceleration and they're talking about that mass of cash. Okay, so anyway, we'll get on. I'll move on. It says the step to delete the zeros from Iraq's currency has been postponed several times. We all know that. Leading the Parliamentary Economic Committee to demand the CBI accelerate this project. In the news conference held July 6th, the Economic Committee confirmed that the deletion of the zeros will lead to an increase in the value of the Iraqi dinar and will have positive repercussions, including a reduction in unemployment and poverty rates in the country. Okay, so the quote from July 26, 2023 is Al-Awlaq, which he says, the article states, the rise in the exchange rate, my time, in other words, like when I'm ready, and the project to delete the zeros still exists. Very powerful statement. He pointed out it was dismissed from printing the category of 20,000 dinars because of the existence of the category 25,000 dinars, and we do not wish to expand the current categories because the project to delete the zeros still exists. In other words, we don't need to print any more 25K notes. Because why? Because they're going to delete the zeros. They're not going to need them. All right. So another snippet for Iraq Finance Minister. This is on April 2nd, 2024. Iraq Prime Minister reviews reforms with the World Bank. And who is it? None other than Taif Sami. It says the Iraqi Minister of Finance, Taif Sami, confirmed on Monday that the government had developed plans to accelerate financial and banking reforms. So time has come on, okay? Back in, here's May 2024, the Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani fulfilled his pledges to accelerate investment in the largest gas field in Iraq. So accelerate's a big deal. Here's Saleh, the advisor to the Prime Minister. It says it's noted that the level of coordination and harmony between the legislative and the executive authorities will accelerate the House of Representatives' approval of the financial schedules for the 2024 budget in implementation of the provisions Article 77, second of the Federal General Budget Law, tripartite number 13 of 2023. And they go in to say another one is there, and this comes from Al-Mashahadani, and that is there are accelerated government steps regarding government electronic payment and digital transformation. The 1.6 trillion dinar, right? Okay, this is supporting that. There are accelerated government steps regarding electronic payment and digital transformation, especially when state institutions were forced to pay dues. State institutions, like I said, through electronic payment methods. Okay, so that's the reduction of the liquidity on the street, effectively, because if you're not having to use the cash, they can sop it up when they get it, when it gets deposited, all those things. So the committee in bank accounts, right? The committee stressed the need to accelerate implementation of contractual obligations for ongoing projects funded with the budget through regional development, allocations, and all governance, explaining that the committee prepared a report to compare the financial allocations for the 23-24 budget as it included ways to fill the deficit and enhance resources. When they say fill the deficit, who can do that? Parliament can do that. They can do that. That's fascinating because that, as we all know, is that when they passed the budget, they allowed amending it by the government. That was in June of 2023. So when they started talking acceleration, you're going to see what I talk about. You'll see as early as February 2023 that they had a move on for this, and effectively ever since then, and we're smoking. That's what I think. What is the impact of the use of electronic payments on the Iraqi dinar? It says the electronic payment process will contribute to the government in withdrawing the cash mass available to the public. It's in black and white. Mashadani says it. At a time when there are more than 90 trillion dinars outside of the banking system. If half of these amounts were deposited in banks, there would be no problem with financing the budget deficit or borrowing from abroad. So that this isn't something that's new. This was in February 25th, okay? It's dated, it goes back. So they've been working on this for quite some time. It's fascinating, guys. So what is all this about? Well, ahead of tomorrow's session, a final meeting of parliamentary finances on the budget. That's what's happening, supposedly. So today, Sunday, they said there's a final meeting to finalize. The final report. No, that's not what it says. Final meeting to finalize the report on the general budget schedules. So that's what that's about. But I think you take it seriously when I said that they've been removing that 1.6 trillion is a big deal. It's an affirmation that they have been on track to do what? Accelerate. One of the components was to reduce the note counts and stuff, and they've done that. So it's so good to go back in time to see where we are now. It's mind-blowing. It's unbelievable. Parliamentary finance fails to pass the budget schedules due to what? A political decision. Oh, wow. So here at the end of the day, before I leave, I just dropped the bomb on you, and you think that the finance fails to pass the budget schedules due to a political decision. It wasn't a financial decision. It wasn't a finance committee decision. It was a political decision to hold up everybody. The Finance Committee met today with all its members in order to vote as a final decision on amending the budget schedules or passing them as they are. But in the last moments of the meeting, the political decision came to postpone the vote until further notice. They didn't say after Eid al-Adha, right? They didn't say that. They said till further notice. Okay, so now we're left in the dark. Now, why would you do that if you were going to have a 1310 budget? I wonder what everybody out there is thinking right now. Is it because Al-Alaq had something for him? Is that a political decision? They wanted to wait. They want to benefit. A political decision means that they want to benefit from it because something's up. It's fascinating. They've made political decision to not vote until further notice. Was a lock in those meetings like I suggested in my theory today? My bet he was. Hence, that's why they made a political decision to hold up until further notice. Man, I'm telling you, I like it. I really do. I think it's totally in our favor. And I don't see anything bad with it. I think we're all going whoa. So if you were going to do it for 1310 for the last year and a half, why all of a sudden is it a political decision? You said it was going to be a storm the other day, but now guess what? It's the best budget ever since 2003. I think you guys can read between the lines. That's where I'm at. I don't think I got Dinar goggles on. I really don't. I think we all should be pretty excited and kind of pumped and say like, wow, this is kind of like getting to the end game, I think, you guys. So let's see. All right. Enjoy. Thank you for being with me. Hit that like button, please. Subscribe and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Once again, guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this content. Subscribe to the channel or join us at the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community for even more exclusive content. You can also donate to this channel by hitting the links in the banner to help keep this page up and running. Your generous support is greatly appreciated as always. Much, much appreciated. Thank you so much and have a great day.